Hey guys, welcome to my first drive video on Audi's brand new 2026 third generation Q3. It's available in traditional SUV form, like this particular press car, or as a sportback, which is essentially a coupe version of the SUV. At time of launch, we have 5 different power plant options. 3 of those are petrol combustion engines, 1 of those is a diesel, and 1 of those is a plug-in hybrid. And most of those are available in the 3 different trim levels. At the bottom we have Sports, we then have S-Line, and at the top we have the Edition 1. Prices start at £38,300 for the 150 horsepower, 1.5 litre TFSI version that's front wheel drive and in sport trim. And they rise to £52,500 for the 265 horsepower, 2 litre TFSI with Quattro all-wheel drive system in the Edition 1 trim. If you want either of those in the sportback style, so the SUV coupe, then you're going to pay an extra 1,500 quid on top. Although we're up in beautiful Scotland and the sun is at least trying to shine, you probably noticed that this particular car is a left-hand drive German press car, and that's because this is the global launch for the Q3. It's painted in sage green, which is one of the new colours. I really like it, and it reminds me of Porsche's Aventurine green. Under the bonnet of this particular press car, we have a 2 litre TFSI with the high output, 265 horsepower, 400 newton meters of torque. In terms of styling, well, I'm not going to sit here and say that I love it. I think it's slightly better than Audi's recently launched A5 and S5. These 20-inch wheels look really good. I love the design of them, which is rare for a modern wheel design, but I'm not sure if they're standard on UK spec S-lines. They're probably optional extras. The sage green colour, we've already discussed that. I think it suits this really well. There's a couple of white press cars up there, and to me at least, they just don't look good at all on the new Q3. Around the front end, well, it's just typical Audi styling these days, dominated by a massive honeycomb grille, these not so nice Audi rings, which I really hope they'll remove and change in the not too distant future. I really like these slimline matrix LED headlamps, but I really don't like these. And then when we get along the side of the car, well, I think that is its best angle, especially once again with these bigger 20-inch wheels. Some of the press cars are running the 18s and 19s, and they just don't come close to filling these wheel arches. So if you want your Q3 to look good, spec it with 20-inch wheels. But I might take that back a bit later, depending on how this rides with the bigger wheels. Something else to note is, in line with the rest of the modern Audi lineup, we have the model designation on the B-pillar, and I quite like that. It's a nice subtle touch. And then when we get around the back of the car, well, I'm not in love with it. It's quite generic looking. And remember, this has a 2 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine producing 265 horsepower, yet it has no exhaust pipes at all, or at least on display. And Audi have a little bit of a history of exhaust pipes, or fake exhaust pipes. So I guess on one hand, I'm glad that they've not given us fake exhaust pipes, but on the other hand, I'm a little bit upset that this most powerful combustion engine only model doesn't have exhaust pipes or tailpipes on show. I'm also not convinced by this lower tail light design. When you're up close, it looks really intricate and quite nice. But as soon as you step away, well, it just looks like a tacky bit of trim that's been stuck on underneath the main tail light itself. And in line with so many other modern cars, it is absolutely covered in piano black trim. I just don't get that. Sure, today on a 2-week-old press car that's clean, doesn't look too bad. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, it's going to look horrendous. In terms of cabin practicality, well, this is my driving position. I'm 6'3". Let's see what it's like in the back. Door opening, not too bad. So getting in and out is quite easy, even for larger adults like me. And actually, Well, I have about 2.5, 3 inches of available legroom there. And when I sit back, I've got plenty of headroom. Again, about 2 inches above my head that has a hat on. So I don't think anyone's going to struggle for headroom in the SUV, although in the Sportback version, you've got these sloping roof lines. So I assume that it would be worse in that car than it is in here. Jumping back up front, and before we take it out on the road, let's just talk about driving position. It is very adjustable. It's not perfect, but I'm sure this is going to suit most shapes and sizes. Again, I've got loads of headroom above mine. In terms of the seats themselves, again, very adjustable, relatively comfortable, and they've got enough adjustment for a Q3. You're not going to be taking this out on a track day. Something else to talk about as the rain starts to fall is the boot space. It's just under 500 litres with the rear seats up and in their normal position, but you can slide this entire bench forward and that'll give you 575 litres in the boot, but it basically completely eliminates rear legroom. It turns it into a Q3 911, if you like. And with those rear seats folded, you end up with just under 1,400 litres of boot space. So that should be good enough. If you've driven any of Audi's very recent models, like the new A5 or like the Q6 e-tron, you'll be familiar with this full sort of double screen digital display. It's not too dissimilar to what BMW give you with the curved display, at least in the way it looks, but its functionality, as far as I'm concerned, it's a bit complicated and it doesn't give me exactly what I want. I'm not going to go into too much detail now because I still don't fully understand it and I don't have the time to make a video on that specifically. Things like the actual virtual cockpit and what I see in front of me, it doesn't look as clear or as good as the last generation of virtual cockpits, or even sort of a 10-year-old virtual cockpit. Then we have this new wheel, which again is being used on all of the recent Audi launched cars. I'm not in love with it. Not necessarily how it feels. In fact, it's thinner and nicer to hold than some of BMW's M wheels. But I don't like all of these haptic buttons. Between that digital display and this new wheel, well, they've now inserted, and I'm going to have to look up the naming terminology because I've already forgotten, a compact command interface. Wow, what a name. It reminds me of something you would have found in a 20-year-old Renault. On the right, we have a column shift, so there's no longer any kind of gear selected down here, which is fine because they'd removed anything substantial and ended up with that little tab. And actually, in everyday cars, I don't mind gear selectors being up here. It does work, it's not just a gimmick. But it's the left-hand side of this that I'm not massively convinced by. Your indicator stalk, all of your windscreen wiper controls, your headlight controls, they're all on this single binnacle, but it just seems like a lot of stuff on one stalk, essentially. As for the rest of the cabin, I have to say, the materials in here aren't horrendous, but there are a lot of nastier plastics hidden away. But once again, unfortunately, in 2025, almost 2026, this is a common thing across all German brands. They really are cutting costs absolutely everywhere. Thankfully, you still have a door handle, unlike in BMW's latest iX1, where they've removed the door handle because that's not cool enough anymore. You need something else to open your door, which is just more madness. I'm not a fan, really, of this trim. The reflections on it are already annoying me, and I'm not sure how that would work in summer months, especially if you had a roof. I don't know if a roof is optional in this car. I'm hoping it is, because I always think roofs in German cars, especially that have dark interiors, are a must-have option if you've got passengers or kids in the back. Down here, as we discussed on the outside, we've just got loads of piano black. And this car that has done 1,400 miles and is about 3 weeks old has already got loads of marks and scratches on it. But if we ignore the piano black, we have a wireless phone charger there. We have 12-volt socket. We have 2 USB-C ports there, stop-start button, traditional volume knob, which I love. Anything traditional, buttons, knob styles, yes, I'm all for, so that's great to see. We've got a handbrake, we've got 2 cup holders there. And down here we have some familiar looking buttons, including the drive select button, which gives you your various drive modes. And at the other end, we have the driver assistance button, which basically enables you to disable all of those annoying features like the lane departure. Again, Audi in the briefing this morning gave us a new terminology. It's the state-of-the-art driving assistance systems. Well, it doesn't matter how you wrap those systems up, they're a pain in the arse, and I don't think they're safe at all. But all of those standard features and systems are not Audi's fault, it's what they have to do. And that's why any modern car that you jump in today is constantly beeping at you or trying to pull you onto the other side of the road into oncoming traffic, because remember, it's a safety feature. As this is a relatively normal car and not something that is performance focused, I'm going to talk about what it's like to use as a normal car. Although we will get on to putting it into dynamic and pushing it a little bit along this pretty exciting but narrow road later on in the video. First thing to talk about is how nice and quiet it is in here. There's barely any tyre roar. Remember, we're on the bigger optional 20-inch wheels. These are as big as wheels come for the new Q3. Next thing to talk about is ride quality, and it's really rather good. So bearing that in mind, if you're on the 18s or 19-inch wheels, you would assume that the ride would be even better, and that's very important for the UK market. But this particular press car, in fact, all of the press cars that Germany have here are fitted with, oh, let's just take in that view for a second, they're all fitted with adaptive suspension, which to my knowledge on UK spec cars only comes in the Sound and Vision Pack Pro, which is £4,500. Now, I might be wrong, and because we are testing these and I'm filming this very early, things might have changed by the time this video actually goes live. So make sure you check out the Audi configurator. Go and take a regular Q3 out that has passive suspension, i.e. non-adaptive, because it might not be too bad. Definitely feels very, very supple in here. It rides really well, and it'd be interesting to see what that's like when we ramp everything up, put it into dynamic and push a little bit harder. Maybe it'll feel a bit soft as a result of it feeling good at these normal speeds. Let's just talk a little bit about the 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's fed through a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, which seems to work extremely well. Seems to give you gears on demand going up and down the box, so that's a good thing. Remember, this isn't cluttered up with any of their mild hybrid plus systems, which seems to affect the way the gearbox works, but that is the case with a lot of mild hybrids or hybrids. Even my M5 can be a little bit clumsy down low, especially when you're trying to override it with the manual shifting. The engine itself feels pretty strong, as you would expect. I think the stats on this car, 0 to 60 about 5.5 seconds, top speed 150 miles an hour. So it's kind of hot hatch territory, and yeah, it doesn't feel slow. But remember, this is really the punchiest version they do. I think the full hybrid has an extra 5 or 10 horsepower, but it weighs a chunk more. So if you want a sporty version of the Q3, this is as sporty as it gets. And it definitely feels it. It's no slouch. It's got plenty of torque, sort of below 3,500 RPM. Likes to rev out. I'm guessing it's the EA 888 engine, detuned version of what you find in Audi's latest S3, and in that car it absolutely flies. This one doesn't feel a million miles away. So if you're after a Q3 that gives you a little bit of driver engagement and a bit of fun on the weekend, or even with the family on board, well, I have to say, definitely goes fast enough in a straight line, and handling wise, it feels really good. Obviously with the adaptive suspension, everything's a little bit stiffer now, but once again, Audi have nailed it with steering feel. I mean, it's not hydraulic levels of feel, but it's better than the BMW equivalent, which is really impressive. I'm sure a lot of that is helped by the nice thin rim on this wheel. I can feel what that front axle is doing, and I wasn't expecting that in a Q3. It's not necessarily what I'd have thought I'll be leaving here today saying, but feels good. What is my verdict on this new 2026 Audi Q3? Styling, I kind of sit on the fence. I think it looks really good from the profile, not so good around the front end, and I'm really not decided about the back end. But overall, I think they've done a good job, and it still looks like a compact SUV by Audi. When you jump inside, again, mixed opinion. Good driving position, really nice seats. The tech and equipment does a good job. What I must say though is this is all straight out of the higher models that Audi sell. Cars like the new A5 or cars like the new A6 and A6 e-tron. And if I jumped out of one of those and into this, well, I'd feel like I'm getting very good value because, well, this at £50,000 or even the entry level model Q3 at £38,300 still comes with this curved display. Yet that is the same part or bit of technology that is in the A6 e-tron. And you can spec one of those up to be £100,000. So if you look at it like that, you're actually getting better value in these smaller models. And I'm sure that would be the case when Audi give us the new A3 in a couple of years' time. So I'm not offended by anything in here. I think it all works relatively well. This new control system, or whatever Audi's terminology is, it's going to take me a while to get used to. It's a bit like when Ferrari threw all of the buttons onto their steering wheel. Now, I haven't spent much time in a modern Ferrari, but I know they reverted back on some of that for their very latest models. And I'm not sure if Audi will stick with this. I don't mind this gear selector at all. That works in a car like this. It's just everything else. The indicator definitely takes some getting used to, and all of the other buttons. But like I said, I'm sure the more time I spend in this car, the more I'd get used to that. And that's the problem with a lot of these early press drives. Spend a couple of hours with the car. I'm turning the cameras on sometimes after 20 minutes behind the wheel. So I've got to give you my initial impressions, but down the track, I'm sure I would grow to like some of these controls, maybe not love. In terms of performance for this particular model, it's really impressive. It feels fast enough for a non-S or RS model, and it handles really well. Once again, remember this has the adaptive suspension, and it has a fantastic Jekyll and Hyde ability of giving us a comfortable ride, even on the bigger optional 20-inch wheels, yet giving us some sporty handling when we start pushing harder. And I think that's very, very impressive, especially on an undulating, bumpy Scottish B road like the one we've been on today. So overall, I am impressed with the new Q3. And I think the fact that it starts at £38,300 is impressive. I know that's still an awful lot of money, but in almost 2026, I think that represents decent value, and I can see these selling relatively well. I hope you enjoyed my first drive video on Audi's new Q3. It's definitely worth considering if you're looking at a small or compact SUV. Talking of dimensions, in fact, I think they told us in the briefing this morning that it hasn't really grown much compared to the second generation outgoing Q3, and that's a good thing. It's about 4.5 meters long, and it's about 1.85 meters wide. I'd also suggest looking at BMW's X1, and although that car and model has been out for a couple of years now, it's definitely still a strong contender when you're pitching it up against something like this new Q3. If you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up, leave any comments and questions below. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and I'll see you at another video very, very soon. Cheers.